Welcome back, everyone. Now, this is going to be a little bit more informational than the other one, but I'm really excited about having my next guest, who is Ian, and I'm hoping I'm going to say this right. It's Hagasagawa. How do you say it?
It's Hasegawa.
Hasegawa. You know, I said it right before you were on here. Okay, so you're the owner of HP Law. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Well, we're a small law firm in the Northwest Valley in Glendale, and we concentrate on estate planning, probate. We also help small business owners with business formation and business organization, and we practice in an area called asset protection planning as well. But really the focus is estate planning and probate.
Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about that. Now, we're live on Facebook for everybody here, so you want to, say hi to everybody out there. I want to get some information out about you first, okay? So you, how long have you been doing this?
Well, I've been practicing law since 2012.
Okay. And you can help anyone. You sort of keep it more focused, which is, I kind of like that. You go to them, or they can come to you, either way.
Correct.
And that is in the Northwest Valley. And you could check him out on his website, because everybody likes to do that. It's at HPLawAZ.com, and his office is located in North Glendale. It's near the 59th Avenue and the Loop 101 in the Arrowhead area.
Correct.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about, what it is that you do, the areas of practice. You were talking a little bit about that, but about, estate planning and sort of what you do for your clients for that.
Right. Well, estate planning is something that everyone should do. I mean, even if you're just an 18-year-old, you should at least make your mom your power of attorney. So, and from then on, you should have some estate plan in place. If you don't have anything in place, the state of Arizona will impose an estate plan on you if you're to pass away or even become incapacitated. So it's something that everybody needs to do, but very few of us do. It's the
we all put our heads in the sand.
Exactly.
It's that procrastination I was talking about.
Nobody wants to think about disability or death, and nobody thinks it's going to happen to them tomorrow or sooner. And so that's what you're planning for. You're planning for the worst when you do a proper, sound estate plan.
And it really doesn't hurt you because you're gone. But what it hurts is your family.
Right.
Big time.
Exactly.
And you could try. It's very important that you do this also with an attorney.
That's correct.
Not try to do it on your own.
That's right. I mean,
no legal Zoom here,
That's right. I mean, there's a reason why we don't operate on ourselves, right? There's some things that are important enough to leave to the experts. There's a few things that I would say that you get with an attorney you're not going to get elsewhere. For example, attorney-client privilege, attorney-client confidentiality. You can't get those when you're dealing with a non-attorney. Also, you just cannot receive legal advice from a non-attorney. If they're giving you advice, they're doing it illegally, and you cannot rely on that advice. The other thing I would say is you kind of get what you pay for. If you're going to go for the lowest cost alternative, you're going to end up having to do it twice or three times in order to repair the mistakes that you made the first time that you didn't do properly.
Also, listen up to this too. It's very important if you are a business owner. I don't care if you just have a business out of your house, but you don't know how it's going to grow. You don't know where it's at, and if it does, it doesn't even matter if it does or not. That's why you sort of do both areas, because It is very important that if you own a business to make sure that you've got all of those I's and T's dotted and I's, whatever it is.
I's dotted, T's crossed. I agree, because the small business owner, their quote-unquote estate is probably wrapped primarily in that small business. And what a lot of people don't think is that their business planning, their LLC, their partnership, whatever it is, needs to be properly linked to their estate plan, which is often a revocable living trust, or sometimes it's just a will-based plan. But they need to be connected, because what happens if the small business owner gets in an accident and they're incapacitated? Well, for business continuity's sake, there needs to be a plan in place so that all the bank accounts aren't frozen, all the assets can't be sold, and everything grinds to a halt. Now,
you also have it on your website. We decided to let everybody have it here too. It's 5 cheap, and I know people say cheap. I love cheap and cheerful. So 5 cheap ways to avoid probate. What is that?
Well, it's a report that we'll provide to you, and certainly the best way to avoid probate is to create a trust-based estate plan. And that includes generally for a family or an individual, a revocable living trust, a will, what we call life care documents, which is the things that take care of you if you're incapacitated or disabled, things like powers of attorney and appointments of guardians and conservators and related items. But some people don't want to invest the money in that type of a comprehensive plan.
So this is a cheap way to do it.
So
You've got the 5 ways to do it.
So there are some
Everybody call in.
There are some cheaper ways to do it, and that's what we'll provide to you.
So we're going to give you those 5 cheap ways to avoid probate. Our number here, 602-277-5369, and toll free it's 1-866-536-1100. I'm opening up the lines to the audience for everyone to call in for everything that we're going to offer today, but I'm going to let you call throughout the rest of the show for all of this. I believe that everyone should have this, and I know you've got all these notes, and I don't want you to look those because I'm going to talk to you for a second.
All right.
I know this is your first time on, but I want to talk about this for a second. So my father and my mother had passed already. So my father, who had a will, he had a lot of stuff, but he also didn't do everything. And this is the thing. You can even say that you've got it all done, and you may not know. Do you do second opinions ever? Do you ever look at second eyes at all?
Yes,
checking.
I do.
The reason why I'm asking that is because one of the things that was done was he had a letter that he wrote. Wasn't signed. He didn't know. He didn't think,
Right.
Right? So certain things were supposed to happen, and the other brothers, they lucked out because he didn't do it right. And so this is why you need an attorney. And I'm using this as an example because they know me, and so they're going to relate to this. Okay?
Yeah,
I hope you're okay that I did
No,
that.
that's a common but tragic mistake that happens.
All
People
the time.
try to do it themselves, and it doesn't work out.
Now, you can check him out on his website. It's hplawaz.com. You can call him direct. That number is 623-299-2722. And we've got our lines open here for everyone to keep on calling in. You're getting the 5 cheap ways, and I believe everybody should have this, to avoid probate. Our number here, 602-277-5369, and toll free, it's 1-866-536-1100. We talked a little bit about other stuff over here, the do-it-yourselfers. We can always talk a little bit about that more. What is the process then for your clients in estate planning? And people also think they need to have money. You don't.
No, the estate planning is not necessarily just for the wealthy. It is really for everybody. The process depends on the family and the individual. It's an individualized process for everyone. But generally, we're going to meet for an initial consultation. I don't charge for the initial one. You're going to let me know what your goals and objectives are, your fears, your values, etc. That jerk son-in-law, you don't want to touch any of your money, etc. I'm going to ask you a ton of questions, and at the end of that, I'm going to give you some legal recommendations. If we move forward, then fantastic. I'll follow up with you. I'll coordinate with your financial advisor, your tax professional, whatever needs to be done, and then I will start drafting your documents. We meet. We sign them. It's a big signing. It's like closing on a house. We have the requisite witnesses and notaries there, and then I deliver you a nice portfolio of estate planning documents. But the final step is probably the most important. I walk you through the funding process of your estate plan. Funding really is the part that most people miss. It's the place that causes most of the unanticipated expenses and hassles for the family. If you don't fund your estate plan, you haven't really completed your estate plan.
And so what does that mean? Fund where the money should go? How much everybody should get?
Not exactly. I mean, that's probably already stated.
Too easy.
Yeah, that's already stated in the will or the
so
trust provision.
So it's even deeper.
It's going through your important assets, asset by asset, and determining where those assets need to be placed in relation to your estate plan. That might mean renaming your bank accounts, deeding your home into your revocable living trust. It might mean you're recording some other type of deed for your real estate. It also means we look at the beneficiary designations of all of your life insurance policies, your annuities, your retirement accounts, IRAs, 401ks, all of that. If your estate planning has not gone through and looked at each asset individually, you haven't completed your estate planning. Even your vehicles, your individual vehicles need to be looked at.
So that's the funding part that a lot of people don't do. Now, he does free consultations. He's rated with the Better Business Bureau. You can call him at 623-299-2722. You can check him out on his website. It is hplawaz.com. And he primarily works with people in the Northwest Valley. So you can call him there. You can also call in here. We're going to give everyone his answers to the 5 cheap ways that you can avoid probate. I believe that everybody should have it. I know that a lot of us that are alive don't realize when you're gone, it all gets messed up if you do not do this. It happens to every single one out there. So if you're alive and you're almost around, you don't have this done, please, I implore everybody to get this. The number to call here for 602-277-5369. Toll free, it's 1-866-536-1100. Call them. Go ahead and check it out on the website. It's hplawaz.com. Welcome back, everyone. Everybody also that's listening on Facebook, all of these things that you're hearing too, you can call into the station as well. And again, this is what this is about. Let's say it's you. Maybe it's someone you know. Maybe you have a parent out there that maybe they haven't done it. You don't know. You've never had to ask the question. So many people do not like to talk about this.
Right.
And it's so important. I am so sorry. My father did not make talking about money, quote unquote, which is what you think of it with estate planning very easily. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a very difficult conversation, and children need to take the initiative to get with their aging parents and have a family meeting and say, Mom and Dad, are your affairs in order? We need to make sure that you've got your documents in place. If not, you can have them reviewed at no cost by an attorney like myself. We'll do that for free. And really, a little bit of prevention versus a pound of cure is really what we're talking about here, because if you don't plan properly, your estate gets thrown into a probate, or your
Why
children.
Why should people avoid that?
Yeah, well, probate, our slogan is basically leave a legacy, not a burden. Probate's a burden. It's costly. It's $3,000 plus. It could be $7,000-8,000 for just a routine probate, and it takes months. It takes 9-12 months here in Arizona to get through. If you plan your estate properly, you can completely avoid that. You can have your affairs taken care of privately, not in the court system, not public knowledge, the way probates are, and save your family and your loved ones all that hassle and yourself all that money, because in the end, your own estate pays for that probate.
Right, and all the money ends up going to, where does the money go if it goes into probate?
You're paying lawyers like me.
Right. You end up paying a lot. And by the way, too, when you make it easier for the family, and nobody wants to have to do this, and basically you'll end up, all the money that there goes to the attorney, because that's who it does. It just does.
Yeah, well, hundreds of dollars go to the court as well, but most of the money does go to attorney's fees.
And why do you have to do that? You don't. And so don't procrastinate on these things. These are things that you're hearing. Please, let's do it. Now, he's got his 5 cheap ways to avoid probate. That's something that we're giving to everybody that calls in. I'm going to tell you now, if it can happen to me, it can happen to anybody. And so, and plus, there's a lot of people out there that, things happen to people. They get in an accident. Somebody passes away.
Right.
And all of a sudden, you are there and you're by yourself, or you've got these other siblings, and especially when you have other siblings is when it's bad. Right? Because when it's the ones you don't think that are going to do it that do it the most, that end up with much more. And they're usually the ones that were given the power of attorney, right? Or whatever you call that.
Exactly. Or if there was just no will or trust at all,
it's the worst.
Then it's battle royale between the siblings of, I want to be the executor. No, I want to be the, and it's an ugly fight.
And Dad said I was going to be, and right.
I'll give you an example. 2 siblings, a case I saw a few years ago. Brother and sister decide to sue each other over really what Mom and Dad meant, because it wasn't clear.
Right.
the attorney's bills were about $250,000.
Oh, God.
And all that was taken out of the estate. In the end, they could have just shaken hands and said, let's just split it 50-50. But instead, they put $250,000 in the pockets of the probate litigators.
So you want to do it with an attorney, please do. And please call in for this. I believe everyone should have it. Really, just get the information. That's all it is. It's 5 cheap ways to avoid probate. Our number here, 602-277-5369. And toll free, it's 1-866-536-1100. He's rated with the Better Business Bureau. He does free consultations. It's worth to talk to him and see what he can do. So the number to call is 623-299-2722. And the website is hplawaz.com. Okay, let's talk a little bit about this, because this also is important. Wills versus trust.
Okay, yeah. Most estate plans are either will-based or trust-based. There's nothing wrong with a will-based plan. It's perfectly comprehensive. It tells people where your assets go, who gets them. It appoints somebody to be the executor, or the personal representative is the term we use in Arizona, and that person's in charge of administering it. But a will ensures probate. So as long as you're okay with, your estate paying the attorney's fees to go through the probate process, that's what a will do. Now, there's nothing inherently bad about probate other than the fact, because the probate fills important functions, but it can be avoided, and why not just save your family the hassle and not just the economic cost, but sort of the emotional cost of drawing things out for months and months.
Absolutely. Also, can you explain what a pour-over will is?
Right. So when you create a trust-based plan, what you do is you create a trust which becomes the substitute for the will. And so your will really is not as important. It basically pours whatever assets it might control into your trust, and then your trust distributes your estate privately by the person that you've appointed as your trustee, without any court intervention, and with much more efficiency to your loved ones, to your beneficiaries, to your children, and not only the person you want to get your assets gets them, but they get them in the way
you
decide. Right. So
that's the other thing.
So it's control from the grave, right?
Absolutely. It's your wishes. They were what you left for them. You had plans.
Right.
And they're supposed to, believe me, I know they're supposed to do it the way that you wanted. That's what the law states, that they are under that fiduciary
right. Your successor trustee,
they're supposed to, but none of them do. I mean, I'm serious. And I just watched on television on Reels, I think it was Reels, that they had all famous people that were going through this. I mean, John Lennon.
Right.
They had all the big ones,
Right. Michael Jackson had to go through probate court.
Oh my God.
Prince's estate went through probate. And they did not have a good estate plan in place, and otherwise it would have been handled completely privately. The trust does a few other things. It protects the assets for the beneficiaries. So if you're concerned about your kids or loved ones going through a bankruptcy, an ugly divorce, getting sued, being in a car accident, having any creditor come after them for any reason, well, if you leave it to them in a trust, as long as it's still in the trust, the creditors of your children or your loved ones cannot touch the money. If you leave it to them in a will, they basically get handed a check. And as soon as it's in their hands, it's subject to all of their creditors. Any drama that could occur in their life, that money would go to the creditor. A trust protects those assets. So, who would like to leave $100,000 to each of their kids? That'd be a great thing to do, right? Let's give each of our kids $100,000. But if you give your kids $100,000 in a trust over 20 years, let's say, you've given them not $100,000, you've given them more or less, based on average market returns, $225,000. You've given them maybe an income of close to $1,000 a month for 20 years. Now, $100,000 is a nice gift, but 20 years of income and over $200,000 looks a little bit more like wealth. So that's the difference a trust can make in the lives of your kids. That, and none of the creditors of your kids could ever touch that money over those 20 years. Can't touch it.
Right.
So that's just one of the many benefits of using a trust-based plan over just a will-based plan. Not to mention if there are anybody with special needs in your family, if there's people that have maybe issues with addiction, if there's just people who cannot manage money and cannot spend wisely, those are all reasons to use the trust.
Well, that's a good point that you just made. Now, you were talking about the parents that were all fine and they had children maybe that might not be, right? You know,
Right.
such issues are lots of them. What about people who are older that they themselves may not be so, maybe they have Alzheimer's, maybe
Right.
they are alcoholics. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that are too.
Right.
How important is this for them?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I would say that when you create your estate plan, Carol, you're creating it really for your own benefit first, and then later on for the benefit of your loved ones. So one thing that we do with estate planning is we create a life care package that ensures that the people that you would choose take care of you if you're incapacitated, if you have to be hospitalized, if you have mental health care issues.
That's why it's important to do these things earlier rather than later.
And if you don't appoint those people with, while you have mental capacity, if you lose mental capacity, then the courts have to get involved and appoint a guardian or a conservator for you. And that's a very expensive and, again, a very difficult process.
We have a minute, so I just want you to get out some of the things that which distinguishes you from other attorneys real quickly.
Well, I have a Master's of Business Administration from Thunderbird Graduate School of Global Management locally here, so I have a stronger financial background. Soy bilingüe, hablo español, so anybody who se habla español can come to my oficina anytime. I'm a Veterans Administration accredited attorney. I go the extra mile, and I take a personal interest in my clients' lives, and I care about them. I do what's right for them.
Now, he's rated with the Better Business Bureau. He does free consultations. Please, I implore anyone who's listening who doesn't have this done, do it, because you're going to be sorry if you don't. You won't even know it. So, 623-299-2722. It's hplawaz.com, or call in here and get the 5 cheap ways to avoid probate, 602-277-5369.